Good morning, guys. Question for you guys. Would you have any interest in once in a while if I did just a random farmer story video? I drive around quite a bit, to chase for parts into Wisconsin. Sometimes you're into Wisconsin a couple hours, going to these shows in North Dakota and Minnesota and blah, 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 blah. Throughout the summer, I get around the state once in a while. Would you guys have any interest if I did a farmer story along that travel? Like the harvester. We went and got that harvester stuff, and we were just kind of asking, well, what'd you guys do, and they had a pretty cool looking barn, and well, when was the barn built, and blah, 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 and they told us a story about how through the several generations they ended up having 3 brothers that now have 3 sons, and so they got 6 people, 6 families operating this farm. So you got 6,000 or 1,200 acre families all working together to create a 7,500 acre farm, and it just works for them, and they just had kind of a neat story. Would you guys have any interest in hearing just other farmer stories like that? It doesn't matter their tillage practice or anything, just good farmers that might have just kind of an interesting story of how they got to where they are, maybe some history of the farm, or maybe some guys might want to talk about where they're going. It's up to them. If I go into Wisconsin, of course, I'm going to hit Brad and Living Northern Wisconsin Farming for a farm tour and interview. Next time I go to North Dakota, I'm going to have to swing by Farming in Fort G's house for a farm tour and a quick interview. And the farmers that we bought the harvester from. On the way home from that, the wife was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool." They had a tornado. It wiped out their farm and their grain handling system, and so now they're building a nice big setup. And the wife's like, "Yeah, that's kind of a cool story." And she's like, "Well, maybe you ought to do stories." And we got a farmer neighbor, 2 brothers that they, right in the 80s, when everybody else was being forced into foreclosure, they thought it would be a great time to start farming. And so the 2 brothers, the one had dairy and the other had the crop side, and they worked together for each other's farm. And then they also had, they did custom planting, tillage, baling, combining. They combined the county for a couple years, or not for a couple years, for many years. And they did anything anybody called them for, and they put in so many. They're in their mid-50s, and they already put in hours of a 70-year-old by doing all that custom work to get them to survive through the 80s when everybody else was failing. Not failing, being forced out and just driven out of farming. So that's kind of a neat story there, and just some fun little anecdotes to tell, to just have a 5, 10, 15 minute conversation on some benches and see what they have to say, So you guys tell me, would that be of anything to interest to you guys, or let's just stick to crop talks in the summer, chalkboard talks in the winter, and my random around the farm? I don't know. I like the idea. I enjoy farmer stories. I enjoy going to these farm events and just asking the people at the table, how'd you get here? It's fun. I enjoy that type of thing. And so if people are like, yep, that seems like a fun idea, then maybe we'll start doing some randomly and see how people respond. And so, guys, thank you for that, and please let me know if that seems like an okay idea, or just like, John, no. And so, all right, guys, thank you very much.